Hey y'all, hope everybody's doing well back in school. Feeling the crunch a little bit with the whole mask thing. I've been posting funny little videos about Willie and his experiences on the bus and everything, and yes, I'm driving right now, but it's on my mind, and I get these like things in my head and I have to get them out of my head and onto something. So I'm just going to video record this as I drive for a second. Many know that I have been kind of, how can I start over? Let me start over. So I talk a lot. I talk a lot about the mask thing. I called it a long time ago. In one of my very first videos back in March, I was like, what does the mask mean? Is it a muzzle? Is it trying to keep us quiet? And here we are 7 months later, and all our kids are masked. Every single one of them. And so then now you have the vaccine. Now we got to have a vaccine. I don't even take a flu vaccine, okay? Because, every time one of my family members gets it, they get the flu. Like my mom, for instance, they just, because they don't know what strand it is, right? So anyway, my concern is so now here I am running as a write-in for District 1 out in Santa Clara, Diamond Valley, Vail, which I grew up in the summertime, Ivins and Pine Valley and Enterprise and all these great communities and these great people, small towns that have big hearts and strong minds. And so I got thinking, because I saw a post one day, and that's been bugging me the last 2 days, and someone did a poll and said, hey, would you vaccinate your kids to keep your kids in school? And this one sweet mom, she said yes. And her reasoning behind it is because she wants her kids to have a childhood. She wants her kids to go to school and experience a childhood with their friends and blah, blah, blah. And so at the risk of getting a vaccine, of not knowing what it will do to your body, I don't know if it's the vaccine, the one that the conspiracy theories are that'll change your DNA that everyone's been talking about, which I do believe is coming, microchip us all. And that's what COVID is, vaccine identification, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, this sweet mom is just because she didn't want to rob her kids of a childhood. So that's what I just wanted to touch base on. What is a childhood? And what does that mean? Because I think about my childhood, and school doesn't come up very often when we discuss around the family, when my kids talk about their childhood, school's never a part of it. They might say things like, oh yeah, we moved and changed schools, 300 times. That's over exaggerating, but they have gone to a lot of, I think we went to almost every school in Cedar City, except for Enoch Elementary. I think that was just about the only one I never attended. Oh, that and North Elementary. Yeah. So anyway, I just am like, what does a childhood mean? So maybe you guys, moms, think about, childhood. My childhood, I remember going to Vail for every summer. We lived in Vegas, but every summer we'd go swimming at the pool. Every summer we were there for the whole summer. I'd come back just in time for volleyball tryouts. I had no friends there. It was my brothers and sisters, and we would play store. I remember one time we threw toilet paper. My dad went to the St. George Temple one day early, and apparently my mom went with him because we were home alone, which never happened in our house. We always had a parent at home. At least that's what I remember. But I remember we threw toilet paper all over the beams because it was a cabin, and my dad built and it was just beams. There wasn't a roof. It was a roof, but anyway, we hawked toilet paper all over the entire cabin. So when my dad came home, there was toilet paper everywhere, and we had to clean it up, and we had to still use it because that was a waste of toilet paper. And I remember we had a bean bag, and I think my brother jumped off the balcony one time. But anyway, my childhood, I have childhood memories of school. But what my point is with all of this is, what are you really robbing your kids of? I just want to tell you, you're not robbing them of anything. It's in your own mind and what you're teaching your kids and your perspective and what you put on them. When you tell them that they're missing out on certain things, they don't know what they're missing out on when they don't have it, okay? And friends and the things that they're teaching at school, you really should be more concerned about what they're teaching them, because they're teaching them things to not tell you. There's things like, I just found out that one mom came home and asked their son what they're learning, and they colored all day on how to properly put on the mask. They had coloring pages. Like, why are you learning that in school? We shouldn't be masking our kids anyway. Like, whatever. So anyway, childhood. Just think about, just go home and think about what childhood means to you, and when you look back on your childhood. I know that when my kids sit around, we just sat around a luncheon the other day, and my kids talk about how, and they talk about this all the time, how dad got mad at him one time and they had to go out and pick 300 weeds and fill up a whole bucket. And they pulled the alfalfa out because they were so mad. They were like, we'll get dad back. We'll pull alfalfa instead of weeds. They look like weeds anyway. I can promise you guys, as many times as my kids have been homeschooled, done online school, have been pulled in and out of school, they have not had a bad childhood. That's not part of their experience. Like, they don't look back and go, at least I don't think they do, and not that it's been told to me. They'll tell me, one daughter will tell me, my senior year is my hardest year. But she said, I wouldn't trade it for anything because I had no friends, but I learned so much about myself because I was alone. And I knew that. I knew she was. And I'm just so proud of her for recognizing that she could navigate that narrative in her life and not create some fantasy expectation of a childhood that she wished she would have had. There's no wishing. You're living real life, suck it up. It is what it is. We needed to move. I gave her an option. This is the option she chose, and she learned from it and she grew from it. So I think as parents and moms, we have to quit putting so many expectations on school, because as if school is the only thing that creates a childhood. It doesn't. It's when you go to the park. It's when you eat around the table. It's when you have your kids in activities and you're there and you take them on a hike. I live in probably the most beautiful part of the country, and I've not been everywhere, but I've been to Wyoming and it's beautiful, and I've been to Montana and it's beautiful, but maybe I just love the heat. I love the Red Mountains. I love coming out and seeing all the trails and seeing people on them. And someday I hope to be that person that can just walk on a trail. But I'm just saying, think about childhood. What does it really mean nowadays, in our days? We have to create something different. It's not going to be like the 80s where you run around barefoot with no helmet and you ride like a man on a bike. It's not going to be like that. And so don't rely on the school system to create a childhood for your child. It's not going to happen. Okay? Even if their friends are there, it's not going to happen because they all have masks on. They all can't talk to each other anyway. And, so create it yourself. Be creative. God gave you this beautiful earth, your beautiful soul. You create it yourself. Create a childhood that you want for your kids. Okay? That's what's up to you. It's not the school's responsibility. It's not the church's responsibility. All right? I have good experiences in church. My kids don't. So you just have to create it. All right, moms. I'm telling you, this vaccine's not going to be good. And, if you want it, great. But it should be your choice. Okay? It should be your choice. I'm not doing it. And I'm not doing masks either. So, all right. Love you, moms. Be strong. Be strong.